Hey YouTube, hope everybody's having a great day. Happy Easter. This is Easter Sunday if you're watching this in the future. I wanted to revisit one of our older builds, our first build that we had started on this channel, the old library bar. As you might recall, we kind of started that with an initial goal around doing a lot of piece placement with books on shelves and one day maybe even getting into the idea of animating a character in those books and taking one off the shelf, but really wanted to start with a landscape kind of scene, a small room where you might have a almost like a VIP section, right? And the this area was inside of like what used to maybe be an old library, but has now been converted to that bar. Really wasn't happy with where I think the build was going. I didn't like the bookshelves, didn't like the layout, didn't like a lot of the actual build that had been kind of going on so far. So I kind of had to take that one offline, spend some time working on it a bit. I do like where it's at right now. I did a lot of building, um, you know, off kind of camera. But with that being said, let's jump into the build. So obviously zoomed in here on the wall, but do kind of a quick 360 and show you. Made several changes, and yeah, you'll see probably a lot of changes from where this maybe was in our previous video. But let's just talk about a couple of things here real quick. So obviously keeping with the cigar room kind of furniture there, and some of the various items that are out within the space here. Um, even like that little shelf over there, that's kind of like a liquor bottle holder cabinet thing. But I really wanted to take a step back and redesign all of the bookshelves. I just didn't like that I had standalone individual bookshelves. I wanted them to be almost like embedded and built into the walls. And I didn't like the sizing of the old shelves. I thought for how large these books should be that it just kind of looked a little goofy, really. I tried to remeasure these and build something that almost fit directly into the wall, almost as if it was built there years and years ago, and make it kind of appropriately a size to each of these books, these meshes. Depending on I think the size of the individual one. So I really like the way that kind of came out. Um, Found a pretty good wood material. Just kind of built this grid and put on the wall, put it back there, on it. Click on see. I ended up merging all these together, and then there's a back side to this that's all the same wood color there. I think that looks really nice. A couple more assets over there. Here's an example. I put a whole bunch of red books on this one. I'll talk in a moment. You'd be surprised how hard it is to think when you think about populating each of these little cutouts, each of these sections with individual book meshes. To me, I was at first, well, going to stack a bunch together, merge them together, and then put them up as like one big actor, but that kind of defeated the purpose of what we were doing here. So I'll talk in a moment as we maybe populate some other of these shelves and, ultimately how I got to this and then managing this as in, kind of quickly going about populating books on the shelf there. Got another shelf down here that I've yet to put any books on. I changed the lighting to be more of a darker amber, kind of dimmer light there. I think that looks nice, sets the mood a little bit better. Started to play around with some fire particles for the starter content. If you don't know, for any bit of starter content that you do have, when you create a new file, you come in here and you come down to particles. There is a fire that you can create, and you can resize all of that and move it around. I think that looks very nice just for being free content. This is kind of interesting. I did kind of look at that. That actually it moves and is animated now. Obviously, just kind of one video file on loop, MP4 file on loop, I believe. But it was kind of interesting going and learning that. I will say, I think if I play from here, this doesn't continue to play. Yeah, that does stop right there. So I got to figure out what's going on with that and ultimately how to fix that and keep it playing constantly. We'll talk about that in a moment. You can see, I think it was. Yeah, there we go. Yep, that's the one. And then finally, I'll show this, or maybe a couple more things. But I did. So I've been using Midjourney and Midjourney AI, art creation, bar none, it's one of the best ways I think of going about it. Just threw a quick prompt in there and set it to 16:9 aspect ratio for that actual file that was created from Midjourney. Saved that, and then I used some of the starter content. I believe it's not the architecture, but the shapes. Oh, duh. Get rid of the word fire. Shapes. Yep. And then if you put down a plane, and then if you kind of copy and paste, essentially there's a way of going, we'll talk about that in a moment, but you can put that art onto a plane, and then I took from the actual cigar room, there was a very nice picture frame right here. Really like the way that looks if you put that just right. Um, kind of get that nice, you know, edges, border around it, and then of course, you can show your art on the wall. I think that'd be really cool if we maybe even did like a museum build, really leaning hard to doing a lot of art and kind of creating another landscape. That might be the next one we explore, and just putting a lot of art on the walls, and some kind of, you know, really fun, well-designed museum. But yeah, no, couple cool changes in here. Really like the way that this room turned out. Just so we do, obviously this is the outside of it. Still have a lot to go, I think. I do eventually one day want to kind of really lean into framing the outside of this, perhaps duplicating this room a time or two in a couple of different variants, maybe expand this out a little bit. This was the bar that we had started. I don't hate that bar, but want to build this area up a little bit. Not sure where I want to take that, but I think for the sole purpose of this project and where it started, I'm really happy with what we've got going on right here. But yeah, let me I want to start with kind of just showing some helpful tips that I learned from putting books on a shelf, as interesting as that might, or not interesting as that might be. We'll kind of come over here to a new shelf. Whoops, sorry about that. Grab a book, pull it over. So real quick, the first thing you obviously want to do is size it appropriately. Get that sizing just right. And then really what you're doing from here is just Control D to duplicate. And kind of trying to do your best to stack them. And I know that we aren't, um, how do you say, we aren't having a lot of variance to the books. Ideally, these would be all different sizes, shapes, and colors. My thought is I'll come back in here later and kind of repopulate a lot of that, or maybe this is some kind of old encyclopedia, I don't know. But yeah, you just kind of keep this going. Obviously, you can use your left hand on the keyboard, Control Duplicate. Which, well, really the good thing is we'll only technically need to do this once. So no matter how big your bookshelf is. So that's about to the other side. I'm happy with that. Now, obviously, we have a handful of books here on the shelf. We want to select them all, reposition them. We want to copy and paste them and move them all around. So um, what you want to do is start and find from the beginning in this area here, what is the starting number or starting uh, item in this list here. So if you click the first one on the far left, you'll see that that's 52, and this is 151. So if I click here, scroll down to 52. But I see that did select all of those down there, which, hmm. Maybe I'll start from scratch real quick. Yeah, I think because maybe I did that out of order. It's 27. 1. As you can tell, I've been doing a little bit of work here ahead of time. Delete those. Let's actually do this in order. So we'll come back, get our mega scans. Just go back and get the exact book we were working with. Actually, that's fine. Okay, let's try this one more time. We're about right there. So yeah, we'll just do the same thing we just did. That's pretty good. So let's try that one more time. So that starts there at 1, and this goes to 38. So 1, scroll down to 38. So these aren't merged, and then I should just be able to duplicate these and bring them on down. Love that. Makes things go much faster. Let me know in the comments if you have any plans for Easter. There's a church service that you might already know. I'm in the DC area, but back home in North Carolina, it's a really nice church I used to watch all the time, or go to, and then moved for work for my day job. So I'll be excited to watch that. Maybe I'll go out in the city today. I think it's actually going to be pretty good weather. But yeah. Oops. So there's something you don't want to do. So that's 47, or 647, excuse me, all the way down to 684, 6472, 684. Control, duplicate that. As you can tell, my shelves aren't 100% symmetrical. I think for now, maybe if I do this another version of this room inside of this bar, I might come back and take the blueprint or really try to work on that aspect of it. But for now, I think it'll be okay. Yeah, you can see that one's a little smaller. That's fine for now. There we go. Matter of probably like 5 minutes, we've got a. I mean, how many would I say that is? Let's see here. I'm curious. That's. I think we ended up about here. Yep, so that's the last one. So 1,710 different book meshes. So obviously that's a lot to manage if you're doing it, any other way. I figured if you just do one, and as we've done, and maybe you can even make them a little bit larger so you didn't have so many. But yeah, no, I think that turned out well. Kind of helped me speed through this process here. But yeah, um, definitely have to finish up this shelf. But I'm gonna talk real quick about this. So we will start by opening up our content drawer. What I'd recommend doing is opening or creating a new folder, grabbing wherever you saved your file that you've created from Midjourney, and just dragging and dropping that right here. It will import as a texture, you'll see. Then what we'll want to do is right click, create a material. Once you have your material created, you rename it or just save it as is, but we'll double click to open that up, dock it up here, and there's some quick changes we'll want to make. I'm going to click on the output, and what we're going to do is from clicking on the output, come over here, we're going to change, I believe this should be set, we're going to want to set that as masked. Once you've set that as masked, we're going to grab the alpha channel here and set that to opacity mask. And it probably wouldn't hurt to go ahead and mark that as two-sided. Then we will save that. Let's come back into our build here. We need to put it on something, so I'm just going to come up to my shapes. I'm going to grab a plane, kind of reposition that a little bit. And look at that. Fairly straightforward. But yeah, so I think, no matter what kind of file you might have, I mean, you can probably do that with anything from that you might create in Midjourney or just kind of pulling from Google image search. But it's kind of a nice way of making art inside of your builds. Next, let's come over here and talk about this. So let's talk about putting a video onto a plane, having that play, trying to simulate a television or perhaps a computer monitor here. But what we'll need to do first is again very similar to how we organized our art over here. We'll want to come down and kind of create the file structure, import our file, and then essentially play that through the media player. So I think first what I'm going to do is come in and we will actually create a brand new folder. New folder. Oh, nope, that's creating that. That's fine. 3, we'll jump in here. Inside of Movies 3, what we'll first want to do is right click, and we are trying to come down to media here, creating a media source. We'll need to come over here and eventually map this to something from the file path. And I'm just going to use something from this site right here called Pexels. Lots of free, good content in here. But yeah, bear with me real quick while I download something. We'll use a file we already have. That's good. We can save that. Come back in, go back into our folder, and next what we'll want to do is come back to media and create a media player. We will want to turn on the checkbox for video output media texture asset to create that. The media player will open up as such, and if we double click, volume too. But yep, if you see, it'll actually, I'll do this one so there's no volume, but yeah, we imported it. It might not play immediately, and that's by design if you're seeing that. What you actually will need to do is come back into before this works, this will be the time where you'll need to come in, go up to Tools, no, excuse me, it's Edit, sorry, go up to Edit, come down to Plugins, and search for Electra Player. This one right here, click that checkbox. You'll be prompted to restart your build to load that in. But once you actually have turned that back on, you can then come in, double click it. I'd recommend to probably loop this, so we'll loop it there, save it, and then if this works as intended, we should be able to grab a plane. Let's maybe raise that up. Turn that 90 degrees. And what we'll want to do is grab our media texture from the, that we've created here and just drag and drop it. Maybe that's playing. Yep, there we go. Had to play it. But yeah, that looks quite nice. Obviously, you can shape this a little differently and make televisions. Doesn't have to just be inside of a picture frame there, but I do like that. But yeah, I think again, need to do a little bit more building here in this room, putting some more assets out, finishing that bookshelf, maybe tweaking some things. Again, there's some other, I do want to play with the physics behind, learn that feature of Unreal Engine and kind of start to apply that to each individual book. I'd like to maybe one day see this build where you could kind of walk into this room and grab each individual book off the actual shelf there, almost like creating an actual library. And then, I know I'm not sure if you could even open those books, but with kind of the meshes that they are. But I'd like to explore that a little bit further. But I think for now, I'm really happy with where we started off and kind of where this build ended up, what we have right now. And I think in time we'll definitely revisit this build. But I hope you've enjoyed it and let me know what you think. Thanks.